Long before the first kingdoms rose from the dust, before history was carved into stone, before our ancestors even had names for the mountains and rivers, there was a struggle. It was a raw, primal conflict, both beautiful in its simplicity and merciless in its execution. We are going back 1 million years, to the vast, sun-drenched savannas of Africa. Here, life wasn't a journey, it was a daily test of instinct. Survival of the fittest wasn't just a theory, it was the only law. The strong survived, but even their reign was often brief and violent. In the heart of this golden wilderness, where the horizon shimmered with heat and the air hummed with the calls of unseen creatures, a small band of early humans made their home. These were Homo habilis, the handy man, our distant relatives. They weren't fighting for glory, for land, or for treasure. Their only ambition, their singular, driving purpose, was to see another sunrise. Every day was a battle against hunger, against predators, against the unforgiving elements. Their world was a tapestry of constant vigilance and fleeting moments of peace. They chose to live near the great cliffs, towering monoliths of rock that reached for the sky. This was a strategic choice, offering shelter and a vantage point over the plains. But it also meant they had neighbors. High above, where the wind whispered ancient secrets, the eagles nested. These magnificent birds ruled the sky with an iron grip, their shadows gliding over the land like silent specters. The humans ruled the earth below. Two different species, occupying two different worlds, yet sharing the same patch of this wild, untamed land. And over time, a strange, unspoken bond began to form between them. The tribe would often watch the mother eagle. She was a master of her craft, a perfect predator. Strong, silent, and fiercely efficient. They'd see her launch from the cliffs, her wings catching the updrafts, cutting through the air like polished blades. She would circle high above, her keen eyes scanning the ground from Jigim. To the small band of Homo habilis, she was more than just a bird. She was a symbol of freedom, a living embodiment of the power they aspired to. Her presence was also a constant warning, a reminder that death could strike from anywhere, at any time. In their simple, nascent language of gestures and grunts, they gave her a name, Sky Mother. And as the seasons turned, a curious thing happened. The Sky Mother began to watch them, too. From her lofty perch, she observed the strange, bipedal creatures below. She saw how they gathered around a fire, how they shared the spoils of a hunt, how the mothers cradled their infants and the fathers stood guard. She saw how they protected their young with a ferocity that mirrored her own. Two species, separated by millions of years of evolution, were learning the very same lesson, the paramount importance of family and the brutal necessity of survival. But this fragile balance was about to be shattered. In the tall, swaying grass, where the shadows grew long in the late afternoon sun, death was on the move. It was silent, patient, and ancient. A great python, longer than any man had ever seen, was slithering through the undergrowth. Its scales, a mosaic of brown and gold, glinted in the dappled light, a perfect camouflage that rendered it nearly invisible. Its forked tongue flickered, tasting the air, sampling the chemical signatures of the world around it, searching for the scent of its next meal. It had smelled the eagle's nest. The scent was faint, carried on the breeze, but unmistakable. It was the scent of life, of vulnerability. The soft, rhythmic heartbeat of her defenseless chicks, warm and fragile in their crude bed of sticks and leaves. The snake, driven by a hunger as old as the world itself, began its slow, inexorable ascent. The humans were the first to sense that something was wrong. It wasn't a loud noise, but a subtle disturbance in the natural rhythm of the savannah. A strange, dry, sliding sound, like leaves being dragged over rock. It was a sound that didn't belong. And then it came, a cry that ripped through the afternoon calm, the shriek of the mother eagle. It wasn't her hunting call or her cry to her mate. This was a sound of pure terror, a sound that froze the blood and made the hairs on their arms stand on end. Scrambling from the relative safety of their rock shelter, they looked up, and they saw it. The massive serpent, a river of muscle and scale, was coiling around the base of the gnarled tree that held the eagle's nest. Its head, impossibly large, was rising higher and higher, a slow-motion nightmare unfolding against the blue sky. It was nearing the nest. The mother eagle was a storm of fury. She-dove, a feathered missile of righteous anger, her powerful talons extended like daggers. She slashed at the serpent's body, tearing at its thick hide. But the snake was a master of combat. It struck like lightning, its head a blur of motion, catching her in midair. The humans watched, paralyzed by a mixture of terror and awe, as the two great predators clashed. The air was filled with a cacophony of chaos, the eagle's desperate screeches, the python's menacing hiss, and the panicked shouts of the human tribe below. They were helpless. This was a battle of titans, far beyond their own struggles for survival. They were merely spectators to a drama playing out on a grander, more violent stage. But then, one of them moved. A young male, perhaps the bravest or most impulsive of the band, stepped forward. He had spent countless hours watching the Sky Mother. He had seen her bring food to her children, tearing it into small pieces with her beak. He had seen the same devotion in his own mate as she fed their child. He saw a reflection of his own family in the eagle's nest. In his primitive, developing mind, a connection was made. He could not let this cycle of life be broken. A sudden, fierce determination burned in his eyes. With a sharpened wooden spear clutched in his hand, a tool he had painstakingly crafted, he let out a cry and charged. The others, shocked out of their paralysis by his bravery, watched for a heart-stopping second, and then they followed. They grabbed whatever they could, sticks, sharpened rocks, anything that could be used as a weapon. They ran towards the base of the tree, their own furious screams joining the mayhem. The young man reached the python first. The snake, momentarily distracted from the eagle, turned its attention to this new threat. Its massive body whipped around him with incredible speed. Muscles like iron ropes constricted, wrapping around his chest, crushing his ribs, forcing the air from his lungs. He screamed, a sound of agony and defiance, but he did not stop fighting. He jabbed his spear into the thick coils, The others swarmed the serpent, beating it with their primitive weapons, their fear replaced by a collective rage. They fought not for territory, not for food. They fought because somewhere, deep in their evolving hearts, they recognized family. They saw a mother defending her children, and they knew it was a fight worth joining. The battle was short and brutal. A well-aimed blow from a heavy stone found its mark. There was a sickening crack, a final, drawn-out hiss that faded into the sudden, ringing silence. When it was over, the ground was still. The great serpent lay uncoiled, its golden scales dull in the dust, its head split open. The humans stood over it, gasping for breath, their bodies bruised and blooded. The young man who led the charge was helped to his feet, his chest aching, but his eyes blazing with victory. And high above them, the mother eagle cried out once more. It was a different sound this time, a sound of sorrow for her own injuries, but also a sound that, to the humans below, felt like thanks. In the days that followed, a quiet understanding settled over the cliffs. The mother eagle, her wing injured but her spirit unbroken, continued to care for her young. The humans, nursing their wounds, watched from below. A few weeks later, the chicks, now grown into young fledglings, stood at the edge of the nest. They tested their wings, and then, one by one, they took to the sky, their own wings glinting in the morning sun. The tribe eventually moved on, following the herds, seeking new sources of water. They were a little wiser, a little stronger, and forever changed by the battle they had fought. Neither the eagles nor the humans would record this event in stories or cave paintings. There was no language yet to capture its significance. But evolution remembered. Nature remembered. From that moment, something ancient and profound was awakened. The instinct to protect not just your own, but to recognize the struggle of another. The bond that can form between species, and the courage to stand together and face down a terrifying fear. Life a million years ago wasn't just about survival. It was the very beginning of the long, arduous, and beautiful journey of what it means to be human. It was the first spark of empathy, the first act of interspecies altruism, a single moment of bravery that would echo through the ages. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey back in time, please consider subscribing for more stories from our world's deep past.